You kill the engine. The silence locks around you like a heavy vice. You step out onto the cold concrete floor, and the heavy air hits your skin. When you close your car door, the metallic thud does not just disappear, it travels. It bounces off distant walls and returns to your ears as a distorted whisper. You press the lock button on your key fob. The short beep sounds like a sudden warning flare in the dark. Your keys rattle in your pocket. Your shoes slap the gray ground. But the echo bends the sound, making it seem like a second pair of feet is hunting your position, perfectly matching your stride. Your chest tightens. Your breathing grows shallow. Your survival instincts scream at you to run toward the elevator doors, even though your eyes see absolutely nothing there. We built these massive underground structures for absolute safety and ultimate convenience. We engineered them to shield our vehicles from storms and thieves. They represent organized modern engineering. Yet the moment we enter them alone, our biology completely rejects the space. Our palms sweat, and our brain treats a normal parking garage like a primitive danger zone. We face a strange evolutionary glitch, where our modern logic tells us we are completely safe, but our ancient biology insists we are being hunted. It is a profound sensory trick that forces us to question our own sanity. This psychological trap goes much deeper than a simple fear of the dark. When we peel back the layers of this concrete box, we encounter a hidden architecture designed to manipulate human awareness. The sterile environment actively rewires how our brain processes reality. It strips away our confidence and exposes a deep flaw in our evolutionary programming. We are not just walking through a garage, we are walking through a laboratory of primal panic. Think about the last time you felt that sudden chill down your spine while walking alone in the dark. Were you actually afraid of an invisible threat in the shadows? Or were you truly terrified of what your own subconscious mind was fully capable of creating? Look at the architectural blueprint of an underground parking garage. Environmental psychologists often call these areas liminal spaces. A liminal space is a physical structure built purely for transition. It is an engineering portal designed to take a person from one point to another. It is a place meant to be traveled through, never lived in. These structures lack the human warmth of a cozy living room, the busy purpose of an office building, or the welcoming community feel of a local public park. They are entirely sterile cold and single-minded. They exist only to hold steel objects acting as temporary holding cells for our vehicles. When a human being enters this environment alone, the absolute lack of traditional comfort triggers an immediate shift in mood. The mind instantly recognizes that this place is different from the spaces where we eat, sleep, or socialize. It feels like a dead zone in the middle of a living city. The human brain relies heavily on environmental and social cues to navigate daily life safely. When someone walks down a busy avenue in a major city at night, the presence of other pedestrians, the warm glow of shop windows, and the ambient sounds of distant traffic signal to the subconscious mind that the area is regulated and secure. Society is functioning. Rules are in place. However, an empty underground parking garage presents a massive psychological vacuum. The scale of the concrete structure suggests that hundreds of people should be present, yet there is absolutely no one around. This striking absence of life creates a deep, unsettling feeling of wrongness. The brain recognizes that the space is physically open, but socially dead. It is an artificial desert, hidden right beneath our feet, where the normal rules of human community do not seem to apply. Dark psychology shows that when the mind is placed inside a sensory vacuum, it refuses to remain quiet. The brain actively detests emptiness and works around the clock to fill the void. Because the concrete garage feels entirely empty, the subconscious mind does not relax. Instead, it enters a state of intense hyper-awareness. The silence is no longer interpreted as peace. The mind begins to treat the absolute quiet as a strategic cover for a hidden threat. Every blank wall and every shadowed corner becomes a canvas for our deepest anxieties. The human mind starts to play a cruel game against itself, whispering that this artificial stillness is unnatural. It is a space where the normal flow of life has stopped completely, leaving us alone with our own thoughts. This quiet environment forces us to listen to the tiny sounds we usually ignore, turning our own physical presence into a source of deep suspicion. In this state of heightened tension, our perception of the physical objects around us begins to warp. A simple parked car is no longer just a regular consumer product or a machine for transportation. In the shadows of an underground lot, a vehicle transforms into a massive physical shield that can easily hide danger. The low ceilings press down from above, creating a heavy atmosphere that mimics an ancient underground tomb. The cold gray concrete pillars do not just hold up the ceiling. They create a maze of blind spots that block our line of sight. We are not actually afraid of the concrete itself, nor are we afraid of the vehicles. We are deeply terrified of the absolute absence of human life, because that emptiness leaves a massive open window for vulnerability. Every single pillar becomes a potential hiding spot for something unknown, forcing our eyes to dart from left to right in a desperate search for clarity. This vulnerability forces the brain to look at everything with deep suspicion. The sterile design of a parking lot strips away our basic feelings of control. In a normal environment, we have a clear understanding of our surroundings. In an underground garage, the repetitive pattern of gray columns and numbered parking slots creates a disorienting loop. It looks the same in every direction. This architectural repetition confuses our internal radar. The mind realizes it is trapped in a space that feels both familiar and deeply alien. It is a modern construction, yet it feels entirely disconnected from the safety of modern civilization. There are no windows to show the outside world, no natural light to mark the passage of time, and no open skies to give us a sense of freedom. We are completely cut off from the planet above us, locked inside a concrete cage that seems to go on forever. The true power of this space lies in how it turns our own imagination against us. The mind tries to protect the body, but in doing so, it creates an internal monster. This is the ultimate trap of dark psychology, where the empty environment forces the victim to become their own predator. This intense mental trick shows that our modern environment has a strange way of exposing the fragile nature of human consciousness. To discover the hidden truth behind this heavy mental weight, we must look past the modern concrete walls and uncover the ancient biological machinery that drives our deepest fears. To uncover the hidden mechanics behind this heavy mental weight, we must look past the modern concrete walls and study the ancient biological machinery that drives our deepest fears. The modern human brain runs old survival software designed hundreds of thousands of years ago. Our ancestors did not live in cities with streetlights, paved roads, and organized parking structures. They lived in wild, unpredictable environments where life and death were separated by a split-second decision. Every single day was a struggle against alpha predators that were faster, stronger, and much better equipped to hunt in the dark. Because of this constant danger, the human brain evolved to be an incredibly sensitive radar for potential threats. It became a biological machine, optimized to detect patterns, calculate risks, and look for escape paths. When we descend into an underground lot, we bring this hypersensitive prehistoric computer into a space it completely fails to comprehend. Let us look closely at how this internal security system evaluates the world around us. Evolutionary psychologists use a classic framework known as prospect refuge theory to explain why certain physical spaces make us feel relaxed, while others fill us with quiet dread. This concept states that human beings naturally feel safest in environments that offer a clear balance of two main features. First, we need prospect, which means a wide, clear line of sight that allows us to spot incoming danger from a safe distance. Second, we need refuge, which means a secure, sheltered spot where we can hide our bodies and protect our backs from a surprise attack. Think of a primitive hunter standing on the edge of a high hill looking out over a massive sunny valley. From that high position, they see every movement in the grass for miles around, giving them perfect prospect. At the exact same time, they lean their back against a solid rock wall, giving them a reliable refuge. This ideal combination instantly satisfies the survival needs of the brain, dropping the heart rate and bringing a deep sense of peace. Now consider what happens when we step away from that open valley and enter the gray reality of a concrete parking garage. The entire evolutionary equation is instantly flipped upside down, leaving our internal radar completely broken. Massive concrete pillars and long lines of dark vehicles act as visual barriers every few steps. As a person walks down a narrow aisle, their vision is cut off every 5 or 6 feet. They cannot see what is waiting 20 feet ahead of them, nor can they see what lurks around the next sharp turn. The modern environment completely strips away our sense of prospect, reducing our visual range to almost nothing. At the exact same time, because the floor is completely flat and open, the garage offers absolutely no natural refuge. There are no bushes to blend into, no trees to climb, and no walls to shield our bodies from an unseen threat. The brain immediately runs a subconscious calculation and reaches a terrifying conclusion. It realizes we are entirely exposed to danger, yet we are completely blind to where that danger might come from. This visual blindness is immediately compounded by a severe failure in our auditory processing center. Human beings do not just rely on their eyes to stay alive. We use our ears as a highly sophisticated tracking system. Neurological research demonstrates that when our brain detects a sound, a tiny almond-shaped structure called the amygdala instantly fires up. The amygdala acts as the primary panic button of the human body, responsible for initiating the fight or flight survival response. To keep us safe, the brain relies on a natural process called sound localization. When a noise occurs in the environment, the sound waves travel through the air and hit one ear a fraction of a millisecond before they hit the other ear. The internal computer calculates this tiny time difference with absolute precision, allowing us to pinpoint the exact direction and distance of the source. In a natural setting, this acoustic radar allows a human to hear a dry twig snap in the dark and instantly know exactly where a predator is crouching. But when we go underground, this brilliant auditory tracking system encounters a massive wall of acoustic corruption. Underground parking lots are built almost entirely out of smooth, hard concrete and heavy steel panels. These industrial materials do not absorb sound waves. Instead, they act as perfect acoustic mirrors. When a distant car door slams, a loose pipe drips, or a ventilation system turns on, the sound waves bounce violently off the ceiling, the floor, and the walls. The sound waves reflect back and forth across the open space, multiplying and distorting as they travel. By the time the noise hits our ears, it strikes us from 3 or 4 different directions at the exact same microsecond. The brain tries to calculate the location, but the incoming data is completely corrupted by the overlapping echoes. The sound localization system fails entirely. Because the internal radar cannot determine where the noise is coming from, the amygdala makes a safe evolutionary guess. It assumes the threat is close, invisible, and moving directly toward your position, triggering a sudden spike in adrenaline. This intense sensory confusion is finally locked into place by the psychological weight of spatial confinement. Human beings possess an innate aversion to being cornered, a trait developed because entering a tight space with limited exits is an evolutionary death sentence. In the ancient world, walking deep inside a narrow cave with only one small opening meant risking total entrapment if a dangerous predator blocked the way out. Underground parking garages mimic this exact survival trap on a massive scale. When we drive or walk down a concrete ramp, we are literally burying ourselves beneath millions of pounds of solid stone and earth. The natural sky disappears, The fresh air vanishes, and the easy exit routes are choked down to a few heavy fire doors or narrow elevator shafts. The brain registers this environmental bottleneck with deep anxiety. It knows that if an emergency occurs, our escape paths are severely limited, and we are effectively trapped inside a massive concrete cage. We are forced to feel the raw reality of being prey, cornered under the earth waiting for the light to return. Architects do not build underground parking structures with the intention of frightening the public, yet their choices in basic utility create a perfect storm of environmental triggers. Consider the way these spaces are illuminated. Most facilities rely on cheap, low-cost fluorescent tubes or harsh light emitting diode bulbs to cut energy costs. These fixtures are usually spaced very far apart, which leaves massive patches of darkness between each glowing light source. This setup creates an intense high-contrast landscape where bright glare meets pitch-black shadows. Even worse, these industrial bulbs often vibrate or flicker at a specific frequency that the human eye cannot consciously see, but the brain absolutely registers. This hidden flickering places a constant strain on the visual cortex, slightly distorting depth perception and making it very difficult to judge distances accurately. When your vision is compromised by this artificial glare, the mind instantly begins to lose its grip on spatial certainty, making every corner look unpredictable. This visual instability is paired with an oppressive acoustic blanket that alters how we track movement. Walk into any lower-level parking facility, and you will immediately notice a heavy continuous hum vibrating through the air. This constant noise comes from massive ventilation fans, drainage pumps, and electrical transformers working behind the concrete walls. While this sound might seem like harmless background white noise, it performs a dark psychological trick by masking the subtle sounds of life. It completely drowns out the soft rustle of clothing, the sound of normal human breathing, or the light tap of a rubber shoe on concrete. Because the environment is flooded with this heavy industrial vibration, the human brain loses its ability to catch small incoming acoustic signals. The internal radar realizes it is auditorily blind, which forces the nervous system to increase its sensitivity to the maximum level. The silence is gone, replaced by a wall of synthetic noise that keeps the mind on edge, waiting for any break in the hum. Every mechanical sound becomes a potential threat that demands our full attention. When your two primary senses of sight and hearing are compromised like this, the environment forces you into a primitive predator-prey dynamic. Every architectural feature begins to work against your peace of mind. The low concrete ceilings mimic the heavy stone roof of an ancient cave, making you feel smaller and more vulnerable. The massive pillars do not just hold up the building anymore, because your hyperactive brain now treats them as perfect tactical shields for an invisible attacker. Every single car parked in the darkness transforms from a regular piece of consumer machinery into a massive blind spot that could hide a threat. As you walk down the long empty aisles, your eyes dart from left to right, scanning the dark gaps between vehicles. A simple shadow cast by a concrete column suddenly looks exactly like a human figure standing perfectly still, waiting for you to pass. The environment chips away at your logic, stripping away your modern identity and reducing you to a vulnerable target, trying to survive a hostile landscape where you feel entirely outnumbered. This environmental pressure triggers a dangerous mental feedback loop that is incredibly difficult to break. It represents the ultimate trap of dark psychology, where the mind becomes its own worst enemy. When you enter the garage, you might try to tell yourself that you are completely fine. You tell your brain that there is no danger, that the space is empty, and that your fear is foolish. But your body does not listen to your logic. Your heart rate begins to climb, your palms grow damp, and adrenaline floods your bloodstream. Because your body is experiencing a physical panic response, your brain assumes there must be a real threat nearby. It begins to look even harder for danger, scanning the environment with desperate intensity. Every small noise is magnified 100 times. Every flickering light looks like a sudden movement. The harder you try to force yourself to stay calm, the more your brain analyzes the environment for threats, interpreting harmless architectural features as signs of an incoming ambush, feeding the exact anxiety you are trying to suppress. This internal battle shows that our modern world has a strange way of exposing the fragile nature of human consciousness. We are trapped in a loop where our own survival mechanisms turn against us, creating monsters out of empty space. This deep paranoia is not an accidental reaction, but a predictable result of placing an ancient biological creature inside an artificial subterranean cage. To fully understand how we can escape this cycle of fear, we must trace these survival instincts to their ultimate conclusion and find the hidden comfort within our primal panic. This hidden comfort can only be found if we are willing to step deeper into the dark and face the truth. Only by breaking down the science of our fears can we hope to regain complete control over our senses. We finally reach our vehicle, pull open the heavy door, and lock ourselves safely inside the cabin. Our breathing slows down, our heart rate drops, and the cold concrete world outside becomes nothing more than a distant memory. We start the engine, drive up the ramp, and break through into the open air of the surface world. We feel a massive wave of pure emotional relief as the open sky expands above us. It is incredibly easy to look back on those tense moments in the dark and feel a bit foolish. We tell ourselves that we were being childish, imaginative, or irrationally afraid of absolutely nothing. We find comfort in the scientific fact that our ancient survival software is simply working perfectly to keep us alive. But we must ask ourselves a deeper question that modern logic cannot easily answer. Are we truly sure that this primal panic is just an ancient glitch from our past? What if your brain is not miscalculating the empty space at all? What if your subconscious mind is actually detecting a very real danger, a subtle shift in the environment that your modern educated eyes have been trained to ignore? Science tells us that our senses filter out 99% of reality just to keep us sane. When you feel that sudden icy chill down your spine in an empty garage, perhaps you are not remembering the past. Perhaps you are accurately sensing the immediate present. What do you think is truly happening in those quiet moments under the earth? Are we truly alone, or have we just forgotten how to see what is hunting us? Is it possible that the fear is the only real thing left in that concrete maze? Share your thoughts in the comments below and let us debate what the human mind is truly hiding from us. If you are brave enough to dive deeper into the darkest corners of human psychology, hit that subscribe button and leave a like if you made it to the very end. I am Beyond the Creep, and I will see you in the next dark corner.